So Soundpost started in 2011 after I finished my PhD. My PhD was all about folk singing and how the folk scene creates a sense of community and how brilliant that is for people inside, but how difficult sometimes it can be for people on the outside getting in. So I wanted to run some events that taught people about folk music, just gave them a bit of an insight into what the folk scene was, what the repertoire was, and gave them some skills to be able to go and do it if they've never done it before. But also to tap into the existing folk community and give them things to challenge what they think about stuff already, to think in new ways about traditional material, what they might do with it, how they might sing. I'm from a performing side and I'd been doing lots of gigs, and I'd realised that I'd gone from doing lots of workshops with the Witches of Elsick, which were brilliant and very hands-on, get to speak to people, to just doing quite big festival gigs where you're pretty removed from the audience, you just go and you do your intros. But that whole raft of musicians, brilliant musicians that got really developed ideas about traditional music and what they think it is and why they make the choices they do and why they do it. And audiences quite often don't get to access that and understand what it's about. So I wanted to invite some of those people to Dungworth, which is our local village, and bring about 100 people to the village with about 20-ish tutors. So it's quite a high ratio of people towards just mingling together, and wanted it very accessible. So some people who very particularly wanted to get a very specific thing out of one of their folk celebrities invited down to people who've never done it before and were quite worried about it, or partners of people who were coming in and saying, oh, I can't sing, don't know what to do. So it's a big range of people, all supposed to be supporting each other and helping each other and thinking about ways of doing stuff. And the artists as well, giving them space to come together and talk to each other, because we don't often, there's a bit of backstage, but we don't actually get to nitpick with each other about bowing technique or what do you actually do and how does this work. So yeah, it was a bit of an experiment really, and just did it over a weekend from Friday evening to Sunday night. Invited everybody there. It was a bit chaotic but also quite a lot of fun. A lot of people felt quite drained at the end of it. They'd gone on quite a rite of passage and gone through quite an experience, I think. So the first one was all about singing. But instead of it all coming from my ideas, because part of it is about not just having one perspective and trying to give the way of doing things, we wanted to give lots of different opinions on stuff and create dialogue and discussion. So I thought if I am directing every weekend, then that's eventually just going to come into some kind of sense around my ideas, even if I'm trying to not do that. So for the second one I really wanted someone else's ideas there, so we got Nancy Kerr in to direct that weekend, and then she and Sam Sweeney piled together and they directed a fiddle weekend. So then we turned into this kind of little organisation with me, Nancy Kerr, Sam Sweeney, Andy Bell and John Bowden, all kind of helping support this thing and shape this thing. We did a few day-long workshops, we run an evening folk club once a month-ish called Raw Traditions. So there's lots of bits of activity happening around it. And then the latest project that we're doing now is about the full English. So it's again the same format, so it's another weekend, everyone comes to Dungworth. We're looking at archive and how to use the archive. And that grew quite naturally really, out of a lot of the people involved in Soundpost were also in the Full English Band project. The Full English itself is a big digital online archive, big portal into the collections of loads of the key people who were getting material around the turn of the last century. So Cecil Sharp, Ralph Vaughan Williams, Lucy Broadwood, Maud Cartleys, there's about a dozen of them, some really famous ones and some lesser known ones. And there's 58,000 scans from their notebooks and manuscripts and diaries. It's just all the raw material really before it's been polished up and put in books. It can be difficult to navigate things of that size, it's hard to create systems that are just easy to do. So I'm hoping that more people will find the Full English more accessible and more for them, because the band was put together to show people and introduce people to it, and it almost became that we were the Full English at one point, and that other people maybe then, like, that's an odd sense of ownership, and that it had been done, but of course it isn't. That's the point, was that we just open it up for everybody else, so it's everyone else's job to come in and get engaged with it now. So I feel that's part of our responsibility as well, rather than just putting our stamp on it and moving on. That really is about getting people involved, so that'd be great if that happens. And when that went live, that was all put together by the English Folk Dance and Song Society. And when that went live, they commissioned me to put together a band to turn some of the music manuscripts back into music performance. And so I got a group of people together, including Nancy and Sam and Rob Harbron, who'd been involved in For the Weekend as well, and Seth Lakeman and Martin Simpson and Ben Nichols and me. Oh yeah. And so we did this band and we toured it and made an album and everything. And so The Weekend is about the archive, about how we use the archive. How do musicians look at something on a piece of paper and turn that into a 3.5-minute track or a 4-minute track or a 7-minute piece of music or a 20-minute opera, whatever. Or how do you write new music to go with disjointed sets of lyrics? How do you even search the database? How do you find it? How do you find material in it? What's in it? So yeah, so we wanted to look from the performer's perspective, so we've got lots of artists there. Looking at what we've done, either from the Full English Band or other people and how they've used things. Martin Carthy again, we've got him back because obviously he's been phenomenal at putting his own stamp on material from archives and not just treating it like a historical artefact that has to be very purely preserved. But then there will be people arguing it from a sort of academic perspective and a respecting the material as it stands as well, and looking at what's really important about the tangibility of the archive in itself as well. So it's not that we're just throwing everything out and have to revolutionise everything, it's understanding what it is in its context too. And we've got people from the English Folk Dance and Song Society coming to talk about their side of it. So we've got the librarian there, Laura Smith, who's going to come and show people how to use it, how to access it, what it can do for them. We've got Rachel Elliott coming, who headed up the education programme there. With Rachel on the education series, we've got people that actually delivered that project as well, managing it and helping ideas generate and just supporting the whole project, creating resource packs. And then we've got the musicians and the artists that actually went into schools to work with kids. So Bryony Griffith is going to come and talk about the Mine in the Archives project they did in Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, looking at local mining heritage and how the kids used material, used old traditional songs to write new songs that are relevant to them. So they're understanding their old heritage, understanding where they're at now, just getting involved in music. So she'll talk a bit about how they did that. Francis Watt and Gavin Davenport, who were really involved in that as well, are doing that end. We've got teachers, like actual qualified real school teacher, come in to talk about how it fits into the national curriculum, very much from that side. So anybody who wants to use it in education settings, we want to cover that as well. So we've got performance, we've got education, and then we've got sort of academic-y side too. We've got Julia Bishop coming to talk about the origins and the backstory to it. Who were the collectors? What was the context that they were working in? Why is it the shape it is? Why does it look like that? And Simon Keegan Phipps and Chinsia Yates are coming as well to talk about their project that they do at Sheffield University at the moment on digital folk. So how has the fact that this stuff that's lived under such a sharp power for years and years and years, now it's all on this freely available digital portal, what's going on there, what's happening. So if you're interested to think about it in that way, you can do that. If you want to do education, you can do that. If you want to be a performer, you can do this. You can dip into everything. You don't have to perform, you can just look at the history of it, social histories, or you can look very particularly at composition and things like that. And Pete Cole and Alice Jones, they've just done a big project researching Frank Kidson, one of the collectors from Leeds. And so they've gone really into his repertoire and his history and his personal story, and they've put a bit of a show together which has been touring nationally, so we invited them along as well. And then Sam Sweeney and Rob Harbron are going to come and do a workshop with me, looking at how we take that material and turn it back into performance. And I'll arrive with a song and we'll play it through and we'll come up with different chordal arrangements of it, different riffs to go with it, write choruses. So it's that thing, really exploring, kind of a masterclass, I suppose, taking something and then people get to see how we get it from that to that. And I think we'll probably just do it live in the setting rather than just talk back about what we did on our track that has already worked. We'll show them actually how it works and the way that the music and the lyrics have to sort of interact with each other and how we play with lyrics and where the boundaries of rewriting a song are for us. You know, everybody will take it differently. So that'll be quite an interesting workshop. I've never done anything like that before, kind of just do what you do but in public. So yeah, I think part of it we're trying to push those boundaries of what do you mean by a workshop and teaching and things as well. How do people learn from each other and exposing musicians a bit. We don't all just want to go out and give our this is what we believe, this is how it should be done, or learn rhetoric and things. It's a bit more just accessing people's knowledge and all thinking about it at the same time, rather than pretending we're the experts and you're not. Then some other things I'll be doing is interviewing some key people. So I'll be interviewing Martin Carthy about how he does things, trying to press for a bit more information about things sometimes than he might give, or he might realise he does himself, you know, to try and work out what happens. And I'll also interview Malcolm Taylor, who is the guy responsible for it all, really. He's the old librarian at Cecil Sharp House at the William Williams Memorial Library, and he's moved to East Asia now, so we didn't think he could come, but we just had confirmation he can come now. So he's going to come and we'll talk about where the idea came from, how they went about making it happen, why, the motivations. I love the weekend because a lot of the emails we get now where people are booking, they say, oh, I'm not sure whether I should come, I'm not quite good enough, oh, I can't really do this, I shouldn't do that. And we're always, it's absolutely open for everybody. You'll never be asked to do anything you're uncomfortable with, you won't be exposed. We do push people and encourage people, and we want progression, but we very much hope that's not done in a threatening way. So people come, but everybody feels a bit on edge when they first get there because it's a bit unknown. We haven't sent out exactly what everybody's doing. There is an expectation that people will contribute to the weekend. It's only going to be as good as the people that are there. And I don't mean in terms of quality of their playing, I mean quality of engagement and the fact that they join in and they do it. So everyone comes a bit apprehensive on Friday night, but you can really feel a sort of, ooh, I'm here, right, what's going to happen in the room? And that just breaks down very quickly, and we do lots of workshop type stuff and sessions early on, and lots of beer early on, which helps. And then Saturday you can really feel cogs moving and people working, and by Sunday everyone's just shattered, and the feedback from the previous weekend has just been amazing about how much people have got out of it that they weren't expecting to. They found things and ideas that they'd not had before, so they might have come wanting to get better at bowing, or they might have wanted to learn more about balance, but they had no idea about this thing and they've realised they're interested in that. So I love that change in people's thinking and approach to music, and that they leave inspired to do more. So we're not trying to just deliver everything in that weekend and then they go away and they can do it. It's more an opening of ideas and doors, and that really seems to work, and I love that. So I'm just looking forward to that again. Yeah, there's just an explosion of stuff, and participants come and they choose the sessions they want through the weekend, so it's all pretty much tailor-made. Some of it's open, big lecture type stuff, some of it's quite small, or there's sessions, and there's concerts, and there's food, and there's walking, there's beautiful countryside, and there's beer.
He's a man we all talk of, but nobody knows. And though I subject, I'm getting in tune. I'll just sing a song for the man in the